All right, East Central Independent School District. Thank you so much for tuning in to this Facebook and YouTube Live. I am the Director of Marketing and Communications, Brandon Oliver, and we have another great episode here for you. This time we're focused on special education. And so with that, I'm going to bring on first from East Central ISD, Alethea Mash. Alethea, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, and I always love watching that intro. Such
Right?
to work, right? I love it.
Yes, it gets you going. But
Yeah.
Alethea, you have a very special guest coming on tonight, and
Sure do.
so I'm gonna let you talk all about it. Introduce her.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to get a little technical here first, so please forgive me. But our presenter today, her name is Anissa Moore, and you've seen that on the advertisement. She is an independent educational consultant, board certified behavior analyst, and licensed behavior analyst. Basically, she specializes in working with students with challenging behavior, attention deficits, and low motivation. She has consulted with ECISD for 3 years and works with many other districts and legal firms across the nation. So that's the technical piece. From a personal note, I've personally had the pleasure of working with her, and she's a joy to be around. She loves working with our students and our staff, and that is evident to anyone who spends time with her. So it really is my privilege to introduce you to Anissa Moore. There she is.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. Hi, East Central ISD families. Thank you for spending some time with us tonight, and thank you for allowing me to share this hour with you, or a little bit less than an hour with you. I'm really excited to be doing a Facebook Live and YouTube Live with y'all, and I'm like Alethea, I love seeing that intro, seeing all the wonderful things that are happening in East Central ISD. I know this is a very, very challenging time for everyone with COVID, and with some of y'all are doing virtual learning with your kiddos, and some of y'all are having kiddos in person, but they're still dealing with transitioning back and getting back into the groove of things, even though we're starting December. It's been a really tough fall, y'all. I mean, it's been a really tough fall. So I wanted to talk to you tonight about surviving the holidays, because it's kind of like we just got back into the swing of things, and some of us are still struggling a little bit, staff and students and parents, we're all in this together. But now we're about to have yet another break. And whether you have a child with special needs, or whether you just have a super special child that just has a hard time with some breaks, I want to give you some tips and tricks to help support your child during this break, and actually support your sanity during this break as well. So look at that picture. I hope that is not your family during the break, but if it is, I've got some tips for surviving the holidays. A little bit about myself. Again, I'm an independent educational and behavioral consultant, but I am a previous teacher, as Alethea was saying. I'm first and foremost an educator. I'm also a parent myself. So everything I'm going to speak about tonight is through that lens. All right, let's get started. So we love holidays, right? We have a break, we have holiday music, the stores are decorated beautifully. There's all kinds of things happening in the environment. Holidays can be great until they're not, until there is so much chaos that it starts to affect our kiddos. Especially if you have a student that maybe has some attention issues. Maybe they get very overstimulated in certain areas, or maybe they're very understimulated. Oh, I'm hearing that some of y'all can't hear me. All right, I am testing. Hopefully y'all can hear me now.
Yeah, we can hear you. We can hear you. I'm not sure, on their end. I don't know if they have it muted on their end or anything like that, but I am hearing you. So if you want to continue on, go ahead. And,
Okay, and if you guys can't hear me out there, maybe just turn up your volume really good, and you will be able to go back to this on the East Central page, but I really am glad you're here with me tonight. If you have kiddos that have some attention issues, or they might have some challenging behavior, or maybe they just present challenging behavior when there's a lot of changes occurring, there's lots of reasons for this, okay? It's not just that they're waking up and saying, okay, I'm going to make today rough. There's so many variables that attribute to that. Sometimes our kiddos don't necessarily understand how their behavior might affect the others in their environment. What they're seeing is that, these loud noises might bother me, or something's not consistent in my home routine, and it is throwing me off schedule. A lot of our kids are very, very comforted by that routine. Not so much the rigidity, like they have to have everything the exact same time every day, but just that comfort of the predictability of a routine. We wake up, we do our hair, we brush our teeth. On a holiday, we might have some TV time, or we might have to eat breakfast first, and just kind of going through some reassuring routines. When there is a change in that routine, especially if it's a change that wasn't prepped in advance, it can really throw a kiddo off. They can become very anxious. They can also, when they get very, very bored, and parents, y'all might have experienced this during some of the summer months, and maybe even during some of the virtual learning. If our kiddos have too much downtime and they're not sure what to do with that time, that can create some behavior challenges as well, because if they're not sure what to do, or things that they can do instead of what they're trying to do that might be, inappropriate, then it might cause some behavior challenges. We also need to think about, and I'm going to give you some tips for this. We also need to think about what do those transitions look like going to different places if they go to the store with you during this time of year. This is also a big time of year that parents like to schedule things like doctor's visits, dentist visits, things like that, because our kids are off school, and many of y'all might be off work at the time. This is a great time to schedule those visits, but at the same time, we might really need to prep our kids for those visits and let them know in advance what the expectation is, how long they might be there, what can they get to do when they're finished, and so on. So let's talk about some tips and tricks. First and foremost, whenever you can. Now, we know that we can't prep a kiddo for every single change, but when you can, prep those kiddos. Prep your kiddos for a change. First of all, if they're going to be doing a visit to someone or somewhere, or if visitors are coming into your home. Okay, even if it's somebody familiar, grandma and grandpa, or Aunt Sally's coming to visit, or whatever, just let them know, hey, we're going to have our routine this morning, but right after lunch, Aunt Sally's going to come visit, and this is what's going to happen. Okay, because kids have questions, and kids have really good questions. And so much of it is not challenging questions, it's information seeking. Well, what's she going to do? What am I going to do? What's going to happen? If you prep that in advance, hey, we're going to have our regular routine this morning, but then after lunch, Aunt Sally's going to come and visit, and we're going to talk a little bit about, Christmas Day and what's that going to look like. At least your child will know what's going to be happening. Same thing if you're going to visit someone else. Make sure that they know in advance what's going to happen and why you're there. What's the purpose? That's a very respectful thing for a child, but also it preps their little body and their minds about what's going to happen, because it is a change of routine. Same thing with outings. What are the expectations when you go out? If you're going to the doctor or dentist visit, what does that look like? And I'm going to give you some examples that might be helpful here in the next few slides on how you can prep for some of those maybe non-desirable visits. Nobody really loves to go to the doctor or loves to go to the dentist. So prepping in a certain way that it kind of lessens the blow. Also, whatever you may celebrate during this holiday season, and however you may celebrate, what are the celebration steps? Some of us have been doing this our whole lives, and we kind of know what to expect. We see the tree, we see the presents, we wait till everybody gets in the living room, and then we start to open. Or again, whatever you may celebrate, you fix the big meal, you put it on the table, everybody sits down, and we have to wait till everybody gets there before we eat. But remember, our kids didn't always read the manual. They didn't read the celebration manual or the holiday book of etiquette and to-dos. So that's something that we have to prep in advance. Say, okay, we're going to have a big meal, but we're all going to take turns putting things on the table. And then when everybody sits down and everybody's ready, then we're going to do this, then we're going to do this, then we're going to get to eat. And I will let you know when it's time to eat. Okay, so don't assume that our kids know exactly what to do in every social situation. So by prepping them for these situations, you're going to decrease the possibility of problematic behavior. They're going to understand the routine. You're going to feel better about teaching them, what those expectations are. And it's going to be a lot more pleasant holiday activity for everybody involved. You'll see a Cold Stone Creamery picture at the bottom of this slide. And the reason I have this is I want to tell you a quick story about the great importance of prepping a kiddo, even for places that you might go to routinely, if it's going to be a change. Recently, I had a family member who will remain nameless, but I had a family member the family always went to Cold Stone. That was a very popular place. They would go and they would get ice cream, and then they would take it to go and they'd go home. No big deal, right? Well, this particular occasion, a family member took their child with them. They went to Cold Stone and they were going in to pick up a birthday cake that they had ordered. So my little bitty family member started going, I want ice cream. I want ice cream. And the parents said, no, we're not getting ice cream today. We're just picking up the cake and going. But they were already in the middle of Cold Stone. And what do you think happened? This is a little bitty dude, and he's got some attention issues, and he also has a hard time with understanding change and also being told no. Do you have a kiddo that does not like to be told no? I bet you do. And I bet I know I have one too in the other room right now. Most of our kids don't like to be told no. We don't usually like to be told no. But in this particular case, this little guy was told no. We're getting a birthday cake. We're not getting ice cream. We're getting a birthday cake and leaving. And this little guy had a big meltdown, huge meltdown in a public place. Parents, if you have been there and done that and got the t-shirt, you know how challenging this can be when you have a student or a kiddo that has a meltdown in public and everybody's staring at you. It's such a hard time. It's such a challenging time. And again, we can't predict everything and we can't prepare our kids for everything, but something like that, a familiar place that a kiddo is used to, try to prepare them. We're going in to get a birthday cake and then we're leaving. Or better yet, what you could probably do is say, we're going in to get a birthday cake. If you, number one, stand with me and stand quietly. And number two, wait till we get the birthday cake. Then number three, I can get you a kitty cone or something. Make it contingent on positive behavior. Okay. With any changes in routine, whether it's outings or visitors or any of these special things that you have over the holiday, I want you to look at those questions at the bottom of that screen. Try to answer these questions for your student up front. Who's coming? How long am I going to be there? Ballpark. Am I going to be there an hour? Am I going to be there the whole day? What do I do when I get there? What's the plan? How am I supposed to act? And when we're finished, what are we going to do afterwards? Are we going to go home? Do we have another errand to run, etc.? So it doesn't need to be a long speech, but just give your kids some simple prep steps. Next slide. Here's another one, families. Prep others for your kid. Your kiddo is special and they might have very special, unique needs. And you might have some great systems in place that work for your kiddo. There might be certain techniques and certain verbalizations that work really well for your kiddo. Things like first then. Like first, if you do this, then we can do this. But we need to do this first. Sometimes family members are really supportive of that. And sometimes you might have a family member that is just wanting to tell you exactly how they would raise your child and, all the things that, they would probably do instead. So families, This is a time you can advocate, kindly, but advocate for your child's needs, especially if you know that there's some things that you're doing are working well. Just advocate for your child's needs and kind of explain to family members the reasons that you're doing things, but explain without apologizing. Okay. As the parent or the caregiver or someone that is watching that child all the time, you know that child backwards and forwards. So don't feel like you have to apologize. You can just simply say, well, that's some good input. I appreciate that. This is something that works really well for us. And so I'd like to continue using that. Or this is what works for us. This is what we use in our home because Anissa really responds to this. And just leave it at that. Always thank family members and friends, though, when they ask questions, like, especially if you have a child with special needs. If you've got a child with special needs and you bring like visual supports, or you bring social stories, or you bring a sensory toy or whatever, and you have a family member say, well, why is that? Why does he have that? I really welcome those types of questions. So definitely answer them and explain to them, because that's always a way to educate family members, and then you get them on board, because y'all, it takes a village. It takes a village. And the more family support that we have as parents, then the more effective we become. Okay. And then have backup familiar foods and toys ready, especially if you're going to other areas. It might be that your kiddo is not going to eat what Aunt Sally makes, or what, Uncle Jose is barbecuing outside. And just kind of gently always introduce it, but then kind of gently explain that if the child doesn't eat it, you've got some backups. Again, just to kind of make the holiday a little bit happier for everybody. I have that picture on the slide. It says, Nana was here again while I was sleeping, because sometimes we have kiddos that, don't like to be touched, or they don't like a lot of hugs or affection. And that can be kind of hard for some family members. They might take that personally. So again, kind of advocate up front. You might call Nana up front and say, my kiddo loves you. I know you love my kiddo, but remember, they don't like a whole lot of kisses. It's not you, it's just a sensory thing. But what's working really well for us at home is high fives or fist bumps. So maybe you and, you as Nana and Anissa can come up with a special fist bump together, just for y'all. So just advocate for your child, and don't worry about anything else. All right, next slide. Some more tips. This is regardless of whether you are at home or whether you are doing an outing or maybe visiting a relative. I know a lot of us aren't traveling right now because of COVID, but if you are still visiting, close by relatives, or having small gatherings during the holiday season, or whether you are just at home and that 2-week break it feels like a 2-year break, try to incorporate some of these strategies by providing environmental and sensory supports that might help with kiddos that are feeling anxious. They feel like they're climbing the walls, or they might be feeling a little hyperactive where they're all over the place, or hypoactive where they are needing more input. So try using things like a schedule for consistency and reassurance. And it doesn't mean you have to go and print out this big, beautiful schedule that they might have similar to school. But if your child does have a visual schedule at school, this would be a great time to talk to your child's teacher about possibly sending some visuals home to support that time at home for y'all. The other thing that can be really helpful is just having timers and using different things on your phone and showing your child on your phone, look, it's almost 1 o'clock. We're going to go see Nana. Okay, remember we talked this morning, we're going to go see Nana at 1 o'clock after lunch. So look, it's 12 o'clock now. We're going to go 1 more hour. It's on our schedule. Another thing that can be really, really effective is to create a calm corner at home. I call this a calm corner. You can call it whatever you want, but this is different from timeout. Okay, guys, this is very different from timeout. This is not sending a kiddo because they're in trouble for something. This is an area that's very soothing. It's kind of away from all the stimulation, the TV, the movies, the twinkling lights. If you have a tree up, all those different sounds, crowds, things like that. It's an area that you can create, nothing fancy, but you can create for your child that's a pre-arranged spot that they can go to if they are feeling anxious or overwhelmed. I'm going to give you a few pictures here in the next few slides so that you can kind of see what a calm corner looks like. But typically I put in some real comforting things, maybe some repetitive things, a pillow. If you have a younger kiddo, maybe putting a very comforting, teddy bear or some kind of comforting familiar character that they can hug and squeeze and kind of get some of that feeling out. You might have dimmed lights. You might have a sensory pillow in there. There's lots of different things that you can do, but have a prearranged spot. And it's kind of a chill spot. You can also do this when you're going out and visiting family members. Automatically kind of pick out an area and if you have a child that gets overwhelmed and very anxious easily, maybe take a pillow from your calm corner at home, take it with you in a travel bag, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, and establish a place at that visiting location like Nana's house and say, okay, if you need to take a break or you need a chill corner, I'm going to put your pillow right over here in this area. And again, that's an area where a kiddo can go and just be away from everything for a few minutes. That can really help decrease the stimulation, and then the child can come back and really participate more and probably decrease the possibility of challenging behaviors. Be aware and prepared for those stimulating areas. This is what I call providing the 3 S's: something that is soothing, something that is sensory, and something that is structured. Again, it could be a favorite puzzle or a favorite book that a child has. That's that structure and routine and consistency that can go with them. Okay. I'm going to talk about a travel bag in a little bit, and those are things that can go in the travel bag. I talked about altering the environment, dimming the lights. If there's a TV really loud, turn that down or press pause. Try to provide those comforting items. And then if you've got an understimulated child, if they're just not moving a lot, or if they're just wanting to sit on the couch all the time and that's all they want to do, we need to do the opposite. We need to maybe increase that little, vestibular system a little bit. Maybe make a choice chart of different movement activities, motor opportunities, besides just, sitting on the couch and playing video games. Get them involved in different movement and motor activities. Okay, next slide. I know you might have questions at the end. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. I'm providing just a few pictures for y'all of what a calming corner might look like. So you've got one over to the right-hand side. This is called the calming corner, and it just has a few pillows and maybe a calming blanket and a few books. Now, if you've got a child that gets really upset and likes to tear things, you probably wouldn't want to go with a book unless maybe you take the book apart and laminate it. That can be something too. If you don't want to just take books totally away, you can take some of those paper books apart, laminate the pages, and then put them back in. So they're hard to rip, and they're favorite books. These are preferred books. This is low frustration to no frustration type things. These are things that a child might find very soothing. Okay. If you've got older students, look at the bottom of the screen. For an older student, you might have a magazine. You might have some age appropriate fidgets for middle and high school kids, like Rubik's cubes or calming music, things like that. And just allow them that time. The top left-hand part of the screen is a break card. That's an example of a break card that you can find on Google Images. If you go to Google and type in on Google Images like visual break card, you can print some of these things out, because sometimes when our kids get really upset and anxious, they can't get their words out. Have you ever been so mad at someone that you're like, I can't talk to you right now, because you can't get your words out because you're just frustrated? This can happen a lot with our little dudes. And so if you can provide a visual for them and maybe put it in a couple different areas of the home, maybe one in the living room, maybe one in their bedroom, and maybe one close to the calm corner. And you can also put up different visuals like, how am I feeling? Am I angry? Am I sad? Do I feel sick? You know, it's really important that we know what our kiddos are feeling at that time so we know how to help them. Okay, next slide. I talked earlier about using schedules. This can also be as simple as just, if you've got a student that is a reader, you can just write in, you can use a dry erase board and just write in a visual schedule, because words are visuals. We live in a very visual environment. When we are looking around figuring out what to do in our environment, we are looking for written words. We are looking for signs in the environment. We're looking for our cues. Turn left at the McDonald's. We're looking for the golden arches when we're turning left. So words are still visual. So you don't have to have cute little pictures and all that. So at the bottom right-hand corner, this is an example of a written bedtime schedule. If you've got a child that is not following through with all the different steps of a certain routine and you feel like you're ready to pull your hair out because they're not following all the steps, try to break it down and put it into little sections like a checkoff sheet. Guys, little tip, you can also do this on a mirror, writing it on a mirror with a dry erase marker. Very easy. And they can just cross it through or check it off. If you've got a student that is maybe a lot smaller and they need something more tactile and they're not a reader, or maybe they just need a lot of tactile support and they just are not at that reading level yet, then you can actually use objects to help them transition. So the top part of that screen, it says like handing them a stress ball and say, let's take a break, or handing them a shopping bag saying, we're going to HEB. And they take those things with them during the transition, because transitions are sometimes when our kids kind of fall apart too. So if you have a transitional item or a visual, this will ease some of that anxiety about where are we going, what are we doing, and it gives it purpose. Again, if you're working with older students or higher functioning kiddos or high school kiddos, maybe middle school kiddos, put it on their phone. Most of our kids nowadays have smartphones. Put it into their phone. Create calendar events within their phone. I do this with my 13-year-old. So I have one daughter. She's 13. And she is a super smart, awesome kiddo, but she has pretty significant dyslexia. And she needs a lot of reminders and routines. This helps her. So I do, and I've taught her how to enter in certain things into her calendar at her on her smartphone. Things like, when is she going to have a test? So how many days in advance does she need to study for that? Or when we might be going to see a grandparent, I put that into her schedule, and it just helps build predictability, because predictability equals comfort. Okay, next slide. Oh, we're already at 29 minutes. I'm going to start wrapping up some of our things so we can get to some questions. This is an example of a mini schedule kind of written out, and you can read this to your child. Again, they don't have to be a reader. You can type this out really quick or just write it on something super quick and read it to them. For example, we're going to Grandma's today for lunch. This is what we may do. Drive to Grandma's house in the car, walk in and see Grandma, Aunt Linda, and Uncle Jose. We might eat Christmas lunch at the table. Here's your out, though. Here's what helps prepare your kiddo. If lunch isn't ready yet, I can ask Mom if I can watch TV or play with my blank, and then you can write in whatever they can play with. Always offer an out. Always offer the backup plan. What is the plan B if plan A is not ready yet? Okay. After lunch, we can open presents. I will open my presents when Mom or Grandma tell me when I can. And then I can play when everyone is finished opening presents, or whatever your routine is. Teach them what it is. Let them know. Don't assume they've read the manual. Let them know. And then you've got some outs at the bottom. If it gets too loud, I can put on my headphones. If it gets too crowded, I can stand in a hallway or ask for a break. Okay, next slide. We talked a little bit about preparing for outings. So I'm going to jump down to the third star that's called the travel bag. This is great. A travel bag can be something as simple as a baggie, like a large quart baggie, or it can be a small backpack. Okay. And remember those 3 S's. Okay. The sensory, the structure, and something soothing. Okay, so you might have behavior pictures in there, behavior pictures like quiet mouth or hands down, hands here. You might have some different sensory items and things, koosh balls, something they can fidget with, especially if you're on a long car ride. Travel bags are great for a long car ride, definitely for flights, even though you might not be flying this time of the year. You need a travel bag. Be prepared. Also, if you have a student that is using visuals to help or an augmentative communication device for their communication, have that with them. They have to have their language with them at all times. You might have a social story or one of those mini schedules that I gave you an example of. And then always have an alternate item, something that can be fun but not disruptive. I like little things like Legos or favorite books. Even if you've got a kiddo that's not real interested in books, if they have a favorite character like Minecraft, you can find lots of different Minecraft mini books and mini readers. You can see those even for, you can find those even for a couple bucks, usually at like half price books. All right, next. If you are dealing with a student that is non-compliant and is just really fighting you on different things, try to use choices and offer choices, but make sure that it's not negotiable. If it's something that they have to do, don't ask them. Don't say, are you ready to take a shower? Do you want to take your shower? If that child really needs to take a shower, if it's been 5 days and they have to take a shower, don't ask them, are you ready to take your shower? If it's non-negotiable, you tell them, but you kind of dangle that carrot afterwards. Okay, it's time to take a shower, but do you want to take a shower or do you want to take a bath with your bubbles? And it's a closed choice. Also, if that's an area that they are really fighting you on, make sure that you use a first then type of format. Okay, it's time to take your shower. First take your shower, then you can have dessert. Okay, so kind of dangle in what is the preferred activity immediately following that non-preferred activity. So just offering choices. Again, that's something really respectful for our kids. They need to be able to make choices instead of just everything kind of being dictated to them. It gives them a sense of control over what they're doing, but it still allows you as the parent to have them get done what they need to get done. All right, next. Here's some additional visual supports. Again, the first then strategy is great. You can find this on Google Images. It's just a blank first then. You can also do this on a little bitty dry erase board. Guys, I've been finding those little tiny dry erase boards and little tiny chalkboards at the Dollar Tree for $1, and you can just write them in. You can write first and then. Yes, the first then is awesome. And then also you might even try a token system for a student that needs lots of little bitty reinforcers for everything they're doing. Oh, you brushed your teeth? Great job. Here's a token. Oh, you already took a shower? Great job. Here's a token. These are on, there's different Minecraft and different character apps and all that stuff on apps on your phone or your smartphone or your iPad. So if you do some digging and some investigating, you might find something that your kiddo really likes. They might not care at all about getting stars on a reward chart or smiley faces on a sticker chart. But if they're really into Minecraft or they're really into Peppa Pig or whatever, use those characters. Again, you can go to Google Images and type in like Peppa Pig token system, and you will find it. Somebody else has done the work. You don't have to do it. You just have to search for it. That's good, isn't it? Reassuring. All right, next, as we start to wrap up. Finally, guys, y'all have worked so hard. You do so much for your kiddo, whether you are a parent, a grandparent, a guardian, if you're participating just as an extended family member. You have so much that you are doing to support this child. You need to remember you. I am giving you permission if you feel like you need it, but you really don't need it. You don't need permission, but I'm giving it to you anyway. It is okay to rest when you can, to nap when you can. I know it's tricky to work out the logistics sometimes, but please take care of yourself and rest when you can. If you are taking a bath and you need to take a little bit longer just for sanity purposes, then you do it. It's okay to ask a family member or a friend for some help, for some respite. We all do that, whether we have a child that has challenging behaviors or we have this perfect child, and there are no perfect children. But they are all special kiddos. I will tell you that. We all need a break from time to time. Parenting and supporting kids is tough work. Okay. So ask for help when you're wiped out and try to figure out a time to refuel your engine. Okay, especially when you are running on an empty tank, try to refuel your engine. Stream that extra show on Netflix, or you know what? You drive to Starbucks and get that fancy coffee instead of making it at home. Any little thing that makes you feel, that refills your bucket and makes you feel like rewarded, because you need that. Anything that brings you joy, even if it's just for a few minutes, anything that brings you laughter, watching something funny, FaceTiming with a friend, talking to another parent that totally gets it, okay, like maybe interacting with some of the other East Central ISD families that we have, that will refuel you. It's just like the oxygen mask picture that I have in there. They always say, put on your own oxygen mask first and then help your child. We do that because we have to have ourselves ready and solid and ready to go and sane so that we can help our child. That helps our child thrive so much more, and in turn we thrive. Okay, next slide. These are some additional resources that I've given you. Some of them are books like the New Social Story book, Visual Strategies, Solving Behavior Problems and Autism. I know that's more autism specific. But then there's some great websites that I've given you that have visuals already on there, so you don't have to print them out, like the autismcircuit.net and Speaking of Speech. And then there's a really good article toward the bottom of the screen. It's Holiday Survival Tips for Parents. So those are just some resources and websites for y'all if you want to look at those in your spare time over the break. Next slide. And then that is just my contact information, my Facebook page. I have a Twitter account too. It's not on there, but it's Anissa Moore, BCBA. My email address, and then my website for contact information. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap that up. And I want to hear if we have any questions. I hope everybody enjoyed this. Do we have any questions, Brandon?
Well, I do. I have a visually impaired daughter, and so for her, going around to different homes or different places that she might not be familiar with, what are some tips that the visually impaired kids could use?
Absolutely, that's a great question. So that prep part is critical. Letting her know exactly where she's going to be, how long is she going to be there, what's she going to be doing. And again, as a parent, I know that you've got this down solid, but even teaching her things like, okay, we're going to walk into Nana's house and she's going to be cooking lunch. So let's see what kind of things you're going to smell and, things like that. Anything that also can be super familiar and tactile for her would be helpful. I've worked with students with visual impairment. I've taught them before, and we would do tactile-based schedules. We would do different tactile-based schedules. So we would have a certain tactile feeling that represented, something like McDonald's. We would have like the little M, and it would be like a magnetic letter. That she could feel, or the student could feel and touch. Okay, this is where we're going. But it really just depends on their needs and how much prep they need, what kinds of challenging behaviors do you see? Is it usually with transitions, or is it typically just being in unfamiliar places and not having that familiarity? If there's a set area that you can establish once you go to maybe an unfamiliar or a less familiar, maybe it's a place y'all go visit, but maybe once every couple of months or something, establishing kind of that calm area when she's got her bearings, and establishing one of those calm areas for her if she needs to go is like, first base. That's her point of base, that she can go to if needed. But as much prep as you can without maybe overloading on the language too. I hope that helps.
Absolutely, Anissa. Thank you so much.
You bet.
I'm going to bring on Alethea as well. Alethea, do you have anything for Anissa? Any questions?
Well, Brandon, that's just putting me on the spot there.
Welcome to Facebook Live.
The sharing of visuals can help so many students. I have a typical student at middle school, but those are things that we use around the house, being organized and, whether it's, our space or, in our planning, it just helps with that predictability. And so it does sort of help alleviate that anxiety or that stress that maybe a student who's a little older may be feeling, and able to, verbalize that. So I really liked that. I'm going to think real hard as far as a specific question. You gave a lot of great tips. I think us being proactive and having these things, ready in advance, always having that plan. Because you just don't know what's going to occur when you're out in public, and it starts early on, right? So having that plan is the best way to go.
Yeah. And, I think we assume that our kids are going to love the break and celebrate just like we do. And sometimes it's stressful on them. And just because it's different. And the minute they get adjusted to the break, then we're going back to school, and we're talking to teachers about reacclimating our kids back into school. So again, what I can really stress to everyone is having that home base for that child. I think I was saying first base earlier for Brandon, but I meant home base. Any kind of home base, calm area that just provides that little bit of, I can go here and reboot and just get away from the chaos for a few minutes, and make sure that that kiddo knows that they have a calm area and calming items without, again, giving them too much. I like what Alethea said too about being organized. Being organized in the environment because when there's so much going on, kids don't know what to do with that. And is that my area, your area, my stuff, your stuff? Is it shared stuff? What do I get into? What do I not? So,
and Liz said, I love the smartphone calendar suggestion idea. Have your student tell you what they have scheduled for the day.
I love that.
Absolutely, because I mean, it's the kids, they have their cell phones, they have their tech, and definitely that's a great way. We use that too as well with my daughter. Sometimes it's much easier when they like characters or they like certain technologies, and you can use those characters to help you. Like you said, Peppa Pig. If your child is really into Peppa Pig, why not use Peppa Pig to help you? So
absolutely, it's all about good peer pressure. No, really what it's about is positive reinforcement. It is positive reinforcement. That's what we base all great behaviors on. We're always so quick to redirect a kiddo when they're doing something wrong, but we forget to praise them and let them know when they're doing it right. Like if a kiddo's typically running underneath the tree and opening all the gifts in previous years, but this year they're not doing that, you tell them, I love the way you're waiting. You're doing so great this year. I'm so proud of you. We've got to let our kids know if not more so often, when they're doing it right, than just waiting till a behavior occurs and doing it wrong. And, when they're doing something inappropriate.
We do have a question for Christine. She has a high school age autistic child, and days off can be frustrating, and he rebels against the schedule. But if I don't make one, he just wants to video game all day.
Yeah.
Any tips you can give to Christine here?
Yes. And Christine, I think you are in big company, great company with tons of other parents. That tends to happen so much, especially with our high school kids. They end up becoming, the couch potato for the whole break. And I know that can be frustrating, but it's like a double-edged sword, because it's like, well, they're content and, they're focused on something. So I, as a parent, can do some other things and get some things done. But at the same time, I don't want them on videos all day. So I get it. I think that is a common challenge for so many families. What I would do is try to chunk up in pieces and little time slots of how often that child is on the video game, and do it in sections, use timers, and again, follow with, okay, do this first, then you can have 30 minutes of your game. Then we'll take a break, do this next, even if it's 15 minutes of something, make your bed, brush your teeth, take your shower, then you get, 30 minutes of your video game. But then take a break, do something short again, and then video game again. And then after several days, you can start adding in more expectations. Like maybe they need to do 30 minutes of something different, and then 30 minutes of video game. And then eventually you're doing an hour of something else, and then 30 minutes of video game. So you're kind of shaping that behavior to where you're slowly adding in more expectations, but it's followed by the video game as the bigger reinforcer. So you're doing maybe a non-preferred request or task or part of the schedule with video game time. Again, I love when Liz was talking about having it on the phone, having it on the schedule. If he's got a smartphone, add in that video game time on his schedule. And put that in, plug that in. I think sometimes we do visual schedules, especially for our kiddos on the spectrum, that just have their to-dos, their activities. Okay, we need to brush our teeth, we need to eat breakfast, we need to, make our bed when they're at home. But go ahead and plug in that video game time, so that child sees it's coming. It's coming. You just have, we're just trying to build in wait time and tolerance for non-preferred activities until they get the preferred. But I know that's a big struggle. That's a real common struggle. So good luck with that. But really try to chunk little bits and then a little bit of video game time immediately following afterwards as the reinforcement.
All right, Christine, hope that helps you out with the holidays coming up. We do have some other questions as well. Brenda says, my child is used to large family gatherings during the holidays. He's already asking about them. They may not happen this year, though, obviously, with COVID.
Yeah.
I'm looking for suggestions on how to deal with the anxiety from that.
Absolutely. Hi, Ms. Dickerson. I'm so glad you joined us. I think that is going to be a challenge for all of us, too, for us as parents and as loved ones, that we can't see so many of our family that we are used to. And that might have been part of the routine that our kids are so used to, and they're not able to follow through with all that now. So again, it's all about prepping. I would do a social story. And I gave you a link on that last slide on going to social stories and different examples of social stories. But I would do a social story written in first person that talks about, this year, during the holidays, whatever you celebrate. So say you celebrate Christmas this year during our Christmas break, I will not be able to see, Uncle so-and-so in person because of COVID or because of whatever. But I can do two things. If I want to see Uncle so-and-so, I can call him on the phone with mom, or I can FaceTime him on my iPad with mom. So again, you're stating and prepping that there's a change, but then you're offering alternatives to try to meet that need. So that's the key. Prep for the change, offer the alternative, offer the plan B. And in this case, you can offer a couple of plan Bs and then have the child make the choice. Then you have that choice making, that closed choice on top. Do you want to call him or do you want to FaceTime him? I know you want to see him. So do you want to call him or FaceTime him? And when you do like a social story or something, you have to do those over and over. You know, you might have to read those every day, just as that reassurance and repetitive language to let him know what's going on. Okay.
I actually have the resource slide. Let me see. I think you're talking about is it the new social storybook by Carol Gray?
Yes, that's one of them. That's actually a book, but then the polyexo.com/social stories will give you examples of what social stories look like. And then you can kind of write your own. That's almost a whole nother training in and of itself. But if you go to one of those websites, or you can actually now, because so many of our kids, especially on the spectrum, but social stories are not just for kids on the spectrum. They can be for lots of different kiddos that have problems with changes and understanding, you know, that a change or something's different, you know, this year. A lot of teachers are probably already ahead of the game online and posting stuff. It could be on Pinterest. It could be on, you know, Teachers Pay Teachers or whatever. But if you type into the search bar on Google or whatever your search engine is, if you type into the search bar, social story, not seeing relatives for Christmas or something like that, then you will probably get different examples, maybe that other parents or other teachers have written. And you can either use one of those if it fits your needs, or you can see it as kind of your guide, as your rubric, and then kind of write your own. But guys, there's so much out there that you might not have to create your own. People are doing it now because this is a shared need by so many of our kids. You know, it's confusing. It's such a tough, confusing time of year. And again, visuals are not an autism thing. Visuals are how we live our lives when we are trying to translate language and speech coming in and going out. Okay, it's just how we navigate our world better. So whenever you can add some structure and some visual supports to teach a child something that is confusing, something that is frustrating, something that they might be upset or angry or hurt about, that can really support the decrease of challenging behavior, or sometimes the ceasing of challenging behavior.
With COVID going on, you know, how can we get students with sensory issues to wear masks? What are some tips there? You know, as we go out in public, yes, and, you know, things like that, go to someone else's house. What are some tips?
Yes, that is a great question. And I have a YouTube channel, and I have a mask wearing video on my YouTube channel that you're welcome to check out. It's a little more applicable to wearing masks in school, but you can use some of the same techniques for home. One of the biggest things that I've seen, especially as I've visited different classrooms since August, is some of our little bitty dudes, like our early childhood kiddos and our kinder kiddos, are wearing masks a little bit better than some of our older kiddos. And I was like, what's happening? I thought they would really struggle with it. But here's what I noticed. As a behavior analyst, of course, I'm watching their behaviors like crazy. Those types of classrooms are very hands-on. They are keeping their hands engaged almost all the time. So when the hands are engaged, they're off the face, they're off the mask. So what I can really encourage, because there might be sensory issues involved with a kiddo that's not wearing a mask, is to first and foremost find out what type of sensory are they needing and wanting as far as input. What type of sensory are they trying to deflect? And the type of sensory that they're needing, provide that for them, and pair that with a reinforcer too for times that they're wearing their mask. That will also keep their hands engaged. Okay, I was working with a student just yesterday, and he would pull his mask down, but he wanted a certain sensory toy that I had that you could really squish. So I showed it to him. He reached for it, and I said, no, first mask. then ball. He immediately pulled it up. I provided him the ball. We were playing with it. He pulled his mask down. I said, oh, my turn. Mask up. He pulled the mask up right away, and I gave him the ball. And then after that, it wasn't an issue. We just kept his hands really engaged with different hands-on activities. So in the home or visiting or something, try to keep in that travel bag, try to keep some things when you're on a car ride. Well, I guess the mask wouldn't be as big of a deal on a car ride. It might be, though, if you've got family members in the car that are susceptible and he needs to wear the mask. But when you are with family members, trying to keep those hands engaged. If the mask continues to go down, try to find an alternate area. Again, maybe that home base or that reboot area, that calm corner where they can go, and that's where they take off the mask. And then when they come out of the calm corner, they have to put it back on. But there's still some social distancing there. So with sensory issues, I always try to honor those like crazy because it truly is a need. So whatever they're trying to deflect, try to fair pair it with something they really want sensory-wise. I hope that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Great question.
And then we got another good question. Okay. What happens when there is a disruption to the schedule?
Well, it depends. If there's a disruption to your schedule and your routine that you didn't plan for, we talked earlier in the seminar tonight about trying to prep for changes. But if something happens and there's a disruption in the schedule that you could not have prepared for, again, have those kind of backup soothing activity, soothing item, whatever it may be, have it with you when you can at all times. But the other thing to be kind of proactive is to teach a change card. If you, again, there's so many visuals I could show y'all tonight, but if you go into your search engine and type in change card autism or a visual change card or whatever, and actually it's on the autismcircuit.net link that I gave you on that last slide. If you go to that, there's actually a link for a change card, and it's a visual. And basically what it is, I wish I had one with me to show you. And basically what it is it's kind of a line down the middle, and on this side it'll say, actually I'm backwards for the camera. On this side it'll say instead of, and then you can write in like instead of pumpkin pie, because maybe that pumpkin pie fell on the floor and that kiddo was dying to wait for pumpkin pie, but pumpkin pie fell on the floor, nobody can eat. So instead of pumpkin pie, you can do cookies, or we can run outside while everybody tries to recover in the kitchen. But it's a change card, and you can actually start teaching this to your child in advance to teach them about flexibility and changes in routine. It can be something as small as when you print this out, practice it on those kind of non-chaotic days when y'all are just maybe hanging out at the house, and practice on something small, like instead of eating breakfast first, we're going to take a quick walk and then we'll eat breakfast. So something that's just a little bit different in the routine. It can be something short, like instead of eating breakfast first, we're going to, jump for 5 minutes. So something brief, and then we get right back into that routine. But you show them on the change card. So when you're going to different areas, have a little mini change card with you and have it laminated. If you don't have access to a laminator, like I don't either, you can get just clear packing tape and put it over the top, and it becomes like a laminated thing. Just get big clear packing tape, put it over those visuals, and then you can write on it with a dry erase marker. So yeah, parents, are you going to be carrying different things in your purse or carrying a backpack with you at different places? You might have a little dry erase board. You might have a little, different things in your visuals, your change card, all those things, but it will ease the probability of long tantrums, long behaviors. It might not totally guarantee that you're not going to have a tantrum on your hands, but it could decrease the duration of it. It could decrease the severity of it. So if that's the case, then we're going in the right direction with these supports. Okay.
All right. So I think that's all the questions we have for right now. I'm bring Alethea back on here. Alethea,
Okay.
she's sitting back.
I'm taking
She's
it all in. A fabulous
Those were
hour,
great
though.
questions. Those
Right.
were awesome
And
questions.
just the positivity and all the hands-on things that we are able to give our parents through your presentation. So thank you so much for that. Parents, get the word out, because Anissa is joining us again February 16th. We'll be posting that on our various, media sites and what have you. But this is not a one-stop shop. She's coming back. So we look forward to that, and get the word out.
absolutely.
For us, and we thank you so much, Anissa and Brandon, for facilitating and having us on.
And we posted all the links in the comments that were on your last slide. For those that are watching, they can go ahead and click on the links there. So we have that resource for them. And like I said, this video lives forever, 24/7, 365. So anytime that any of the parents, from now until the holidays are over, they want to come back and revisit this video, you're more than welcome to at your leisure. So, it's always there. And Anissa, thank you very much for your time and for doing this tonight.
Oh, it was my pleasure. It was my pleasure. I truly enjoyed it. I love that y'all are doing this for your families. Because again, we are all in this together. It truly takes a village, and hopefully we can all continue to fill each other's cup as we go through this. So thank you guys for having me.
Thank you. All right, so be on the lookout for Alethea. We will have more of these sessions, and of course, we want all of you all to watch and participate, ask questions, and this is a great time to have transparent back and forth with true experts in the field. So. Again, I want to thank everybody for watching tonight here at East Central. And then I just want to remind people that tomorrow night we will have another Facebook Live with our principal, East Central High School Principal McKay. He's got a lot of information for our high school students. And hope you could tune in tomorrow at 6 o'clock for that. And again, I just want to thank Anissa and Alethea. And just want to say good night, everybody.
Good night.
Thanks, guys. Good night.